Welcome everybody to Red G Fox. All right, on Fun Fact Friday, today we are talking about the hit British sitcom Steptoe and Son. We all know it's the inspiration for Sanford and Son, which is the whole reason why I am here and you are here. It's got some great facts that you didn't know. I guarantee that I did not know. I did learn this. I was misinformed on some of these things. Or just heard a few things and didn't actually look into it. So we'll share some light on some of the facts you might not have known. And it's good to hear what inspired Sanford and Son and how it got to this point. So let's hit it up right now. Let's start with the British sitcom written by Ray Galton and Alan Simpson. Those are the two who wrote it for Steptoe and Son, which also then of course went on. It's a father and son show. We know Sanford and Son throughout the series history was about a father and son, right? It was about this father who was a nothing and his son who was a nothing, and despite both being nothings, tried to make sense. Remember when they do that on the sitcom Steinberg and Son? But anyways, that's what it's supposed to be about. But from anything that I've read upon or even seen, I've only seen a little bit of Steptoe and Son. I never really watched it in depth, but it's felt like it was more father and son because there's not a lot of friends in it. There's not a Bubba. There's not, as we'll cover, who the main stars of the show is. So let's get right to it. They own their own business, right? Like Sanford and Son, but it's not a junk dealer. This one's a rags and bone business. And the address, I love this, 26A Oil Drum Lane. So it's Oil Drum Lane, 26A. When I hear that, I would think it's like some kind of warehouse district. But the city itself is real. It's Shepherd's Bush in London. And anything I look up now, I don't know. When I looked up about Bush London's now, it's Shepherd's Bush in London. It's a nice area. You know, it's a business more. They have homes there, but it's more business section, which would make sense for the show. But it's nothing like Watts, you know. So I actually like Sanford and Son more because I feel like the characters fit the area. I don't know what it was like in the 70s when they made this. But from everything I hear now, it's much better. They actually had a four-season run. And then they took like 5 years off and then came back for another 4 seasons. We've seen that in other show history. Hello, Sanford and Son. Nick took some time off and returned with Sanford, but not with Lamont, obviously. You had What's Happening. Then that was so popular. A lot of people pushed for that to come back. They felt it ended too soon. And then you had What's Happening Now. So we've seen other shows end and then come back. They did this where they left. They went from 62 to 65 for 4 seasons. And in those ones, it was black and white. That's why a lot of times if you ever look up photos, we'll have it on here, you'll see black and white photos, and then they will have some color photos. After it left, it returned for another 4 seasons from 70 to 74. And in that, those ones were in color. Now check this, that's 8 seasons. Even if you divide it, the way the episodes were in their seasons, it's shorter on the British. I guess maybe their situation where they do it, but it is shorter. 57 episodes. So when I see, hey, they got 8 seasons, and we got Sanford and Son in America 6. We have 136 episodes. Man, America is churning them out like, you know, off the assembly line, while the British are taking their sweet time and only giving us half of that, less than half of that in 8 seasons. So much smaller on their seasons, the way they run it. It consists of 2 main stars. The dad is Albert. He is the father, and his son is Harold. So Harold and Albert. We'll get into them a little more. Albert, the dad, is played by Wilford Bramble. When I looked up everything he's done, he did a lot of, both actors did a lot of things. Nothing that I can sit there and point and go, oh, I know that. Oh, I've seen that. Could I have seen him in some, I don't know, were they ever in a Benny Hill skit or something? You know, I have no clue. I didn't see that. But the dad, and then the son, Harold, is played by Harry H. Corbett. So those are the 2 main stars of the hit TV show. We'll get into, like I said, there's only about 3 other main characters. When you break down Sanford and Son, man, there is a list as long as your arm about not main characters, but big time supporting characters. And this feels like it was a smaller niche of group. And I'll tell you one fact why it's like that, at least in my opinion, from everything we've studied and learned. Next, they actually had 2 movies too. 2 movies in there called, man, I wish we could have had, can you imagine if we got to get a Sanford and Son movie, an hour and a half of Lamont and Fred in one continuous story? I wouldn't want it like, you know, some movies like when they did a Twilight Zone movie or Creep Show where they take 4 episodes and they string them together. No, I wouldn't want that. If I had a movie, I'd want a full-on adventure of Fred and Lamont. But This one had two. The first one was called Steptoe and Son, obviously named after the show, in 1972. And then they had Steptoe and Son Ride Again in 1973. So it must have been a big hit to where the following year they made another one. We know the show was a big hit. We'll cover in how big of a hit later. It had many remakes. Now this is what I found. This I had no clue. This is a pretty cool fact. It had many different remakes for each different country. So we know Britain, they got Steptoe and Son, the original. America, we got Sanford and Son. Not the original, but the best. And debate me on that. I'll hold any debate with you. And I don't even have to see the other ones. Listen to this one. Albert and Herbert. That is in Sweden. So Sweden's got one. Steptoe and Son. So Steptoe and Son. If I heard that, it sounds like a car taking off. That's in the Netherlands. They had it too. I'm curious, and when I looked these up, I couldn't see how many seasons they had. But these are all different. This isn't like they're just translating the words. Each show had different characters with them. So we had Sweden, the Netherlands, Camilo and Fijo. That's Portugal. So we got Camilo and Fijo. That's Portugal. I can't even get this one. Snitterswith and Son. That's from South Africa. So we got places all over that had their own different kinds of series that ran, all originated from Steptoe and Son. So what a gigantic, that shows how big the show was and what a huge hit it was there, and then a huge hit in America. And then other countries are like, hey, we can take the exact same thing. I'm curious, did it work one season and more? We know it didn't find the magic of Sanford and Son, because Sanford and Son, you can translate, can be all over the place. In my opinion, that's the best out of all of them, and I think you guys would all agree. So that's pretty cool to see all that. Many of the episodes from the first, this is something too, I was always told when I would look it up that the first season of Sanford and Son is based off Steptoe and Son, first season, right? So I'm thinking not word for word, but episode for idea is taken from season one. No. The first 3 seasons of Steptoe and Son, as you go through and look at them, there'll be several you never heard of, and then there'll be some you're like, hey, I know that story. And it says on there, hey, Sanford and Son took and adapted this. So Sanford and Son took multiple episodes from the first 3 seasons to get their opening season, other than when it finally breaks away for the first time, which was the one we just did. What was the episode? The Suitcase Case. The one we just did. Go back and review that as we did episode breakdown on that one. Very funny. Like I said, watching that was the first ever Sanford and Son that did nothing to do with Steptoe and Son in the first season. And it's one of my most underrated. I think I forget about it, right? It gets pushed away and you don't realize, and then you go watch it. Give it a watch and go give my episode review a watch. But it was a very comical, non-stop comical and great episode. That's the first one. But everything else from that, including which is coming up, we got the Return of the Barracuda, then the Piano Movers. Stay tuned for that. I cannot wait to break that one down. One of my all-time favorites, especially from season 1. But yeah, a lot of them were taken from the first 3 seasons. So I was wrong on that. From anything I read before, I thought it was just Steptoe and Son first season and Sanford and Son first season. It's nothing like that. Here's something that I saw. Now, I know as we get to season 2 and on, it's all original. It's all Sanford and Son. I still think they took a few ideas. Maybe the other ones with season 1 where they like Happy Birthday Pop, they would take a lot of almost identical, not the writing, but the idea, and then some of the jokes would take from it. But as I look, I was always, hey, from season 2 on, it's all American-made Sanford and Son. I think part of them still took some, because when I go through some of these episodes, there's one called we got Card Sharps. That's one of everyone's all-time favorite. When we did our top 10 all-time Sanford and Son on our family channel, that one was, I think, top 3. It was the favorite from season 2, Card Sharps. We know that one. As he goes, he's got Hucklebuck, Arthur Matthews' son, Skeeter Matthews. And so they come in there, and Rooster, and they do the whole thing where they kind of con Lamont, play him, do the 3-finger drag, as Fred says, and they con him from his money, and then Fred helps wins it back. Well, they actually have that in Steptoe and Son, where it's not the same type, but it is called Full House. And in that one, what's the dad's name? Albert. Albert ends up winning back a bunch of money that his son Harold had lost. Harold loses to some friends who kind of take advantage of him, and Albert wins it back. And I'm like, when I read that, I'm like, because I'm reading a lot of the episodes, I'm like, that's the exact same thing as Card Sharps. So I think they still kind of took a little bit from some of the seasons, and then they put their own twist on it. There was no Hucklebuck, there was none of that, there was none of the culture, any of that, and then they just take the idea and then build around it. Another one I saw was one where they try to, Albert and Harold try to raise some money, and they do like an all-night party thing. What does that sound like? We know that that's the very first episode, because in that one, gangsters come, and then Harold's friends come, and they kind of fight them and get them out of there. Sanford and Son, they took kind of that idea and did the same thing. But we know in the end, Fred gets Esther to come, and Esther kicks the crap and gets everyone out of there. So that is it on some of the episode types, how they similar in that. In 1974, there was a Christmas episode. This is it was kind of a Christmas special, and it was the very last one ever of Steptoe and Son. They did it, and the whole series behind this is that we know it's father and son, but there's a lot of more. They have some more serious issues, right? Kind of like All in the Family, and there's some back and forth. And the dad in this, we've seen Fred get the best of Lamont in a lot of these, but I still feel like Lamont usually runs things, right? Like Fred can't get a color TV for the longest without pulling some shenanigans. But in Steptoe and Son, it feels like the dad usually, the son wants to break away, as we see, right? In like the originals, he wants to break away. He wants to be more cultured. He wants to make something big for himself. And he wants to always get his dates with his women. And his dad's holding him back. But in this one, it seems more like the dad always wins. In Steptoe and Son, the dad always wins. That's why it's so significant when I read on the Christmas episode, the last one ever, the whole episode is a premise where he messes up. He has an expired passport, so he can't go on vacation with his dad. And his dad's like, see ya, hey, I'm going to go have a great vacation. Well, he plans it the whole episode, and he finally gets better of his dad. He does it on purpose, so when his dad leaves, he gets in a car with his girl, and he goes on a separate vacation with his girlfriend. And so it's kind of like he intentionally messed up and threw him for a loop on that. And so you see more where Lamont does get the upper hand on a lot of these episodes, and it feels like he more runs the show, runs the family, while Fred still tries to connive his way and has funny experiences with that. So there is a slight difference, I say, in the show where you feel like the dad is more in charge and they make him a little more intelligent. Fred's business smart, but Lamont's pretty smart with a lot of other things. So with that, and then we get to the characters. Remember we said, I mean, listen to the characters in this show compared to Sanford and Son. So you got Arthur and Harold, the two main ones. You got Auntie May. Okay, Auntie May, that could be, she's nothing like Aunt Esther. Right, she does not have the. I think Aunt Esther, kudos to Red Fox bringing her in. He knew, but Aunt Esther and Fred really drove that show to another level. She became such a character that it was like you took the show that was a hit, and then you add someone everyone loves. It's almost like taking a cool Star Wars character, Grogu or something that everyone fell in love with and made popular, and that's what Esther was, even more, and hysterical. You didn't have that in Steptoe and Son, but you had Auntie May, you had Uncle Arthur, and then you had Auntie Minnie. And I like that because they had Aunt Flossie and Aunt Minnie. So there is still another character from Steptoe and Son, Auntie Minnie, as well as in Sanford and Son. He has his Aunt Minnie and his Aunt Flossie and other aunts, but we remember that one. So those are it when you talk about it. There is no Bubba. There's no Grady. There's no Esther. There's no Melvin. Anyone else there that was a friend was not such a huge reoccurring role like we've seen with other guys, and definitely no Skillet and Leroy and Skillet. And I said, I'll tell you why. We all know, diehard fans know, it's because Red Fox got his friend jobs into the show. He would find places for them where they can fit them, and then these people became part of our lives and characters that we hold so dearly and so close that just think of if you remove everyone, let's say keep Melvin or just Bubba, but everyone else is gone. Leroy and Skillet, Grady. I'm trying to think what are the other ones because right now my brain is not thinking. I'm filming this at like 2 in.the morning because I'm going to Disneyland the next day. I'm Disneyland Hotel with Donna. But so as I'm doing this, it's who's his other friends? I'm thinking the guy with the beard. Why is it? Who cares? We know all the friends. I gotta name all the friends right now. So we got Bubba, we got Grady, we got Melvin, we got Leroy and Skillet, we got why can't I want to keep saying Stymie Beard. Why can't I remember his name? His name's escaping me right now. And then you also got the guy who moves in when they get Sanford Arms. You got Elroy, his friend Elroy. Hutton, there we go, Hutton. I couldn't get Hutton, man. It was driving me nuts. I'm like, yeah, I could have cut it out, but I was like, I don't want to seem like I don't know, I know all the friends, but I kept wanting to say, I couldn't get Hutton's name. When you're on camera and you're doing it live, sometimes your brain can't think as focused, but all those guys, take them all off, right? And then you got Nothing. Oh, Little John. There we go. See, when I'm not thinking, Little John Otis popped in my head. But take them all off and just Bubba. Sanford and Son is not the same. It's not. It's still funny. We would still love Lamont and Fred, but it just does not hold the same weight. It does not hold. Think of season 1 when you saw the episode where Here Comes the Bride, and you got the family members there. Well, that's kind of what it is. They're just reoccurring family members here and there, and that's what you had in Steptoe and Son. You did not have this gigantic anchor of friendship and memorable characters that made Sanford and Son, I think, one of the greatest shows ever, the best sitcom in my opinion. So, and then in 2004, this is how big it was. 2004, Steptoe and Son was voted the 15th best BBC British sitcom in British sitcom history. So made top 15. That's really good, because if you've seen other shows on there, and I've seen a few that were really good. There's that one I can't remember. Like I said, I can't remember, but The Teacher, where he had a class of foreign exchange students who were different, and they all had different languages and stuff. Go look if you can find that. If I ever find it, I will comment in this video down below. But that's a great show. That is hysterical, where the teacher teaches them the English language or something while they're in Britain and helps them. That's a great classroom show. But there's a lot of great British shows. So to be top 15, that's something. Steptoe and Son, it's the original one that started it all. You can't suck if you spawn all those other shows we talked about, including the greatest of all time, Sanford and Son. So that is it on everything Steptoe and Son. I hope you enjoyed the fun facts. I hope you learned something. I know it's not Sanford and Son, but it's good. It's like reading, the first book in the Bible or something, It's starting at the origins to where we see how we got to this great piece, what we came from and where it all started from. So thanks a lot, guys. Continue to like, continue to subscribe, and go back if there's some videos to where we got breakdown and fun facts. Have you seen the fun facts on Swanee? Have you seen the fun facts on Julio, which we just did last week? Next week I'll try. I don't want to put all our characters, everything right at the beginning. I like to try to go as we move along. So pretty soon we'll probably come up on Rollo. We'll probably come up on Esther, things like that as season 2 approaches. But have a great day. Enjoy your Friday. We will also have on here Finish That Line Friday, which I love to do. So thanks a lot, guys. Have a great, safe weekend, and talk to you guys later. Peace.